Through the generosity of Dr. Rao Musunuru, and through the hard work of our many volunteers, and through the leadership of our president, Bob Hubach, and our curator, Danny Brooks, we reopened the West Pasco Historical Society back in September. Totally renovated outside and inside, with every exhibit put into place piece by loving hands from this community. I want to thank Dr. Musunuru for his insistence that we give tribute to Julie Obenreder, the first president of the Historical Society, but even more. She was its guiding light, its strongest and longest volunteer. Through Julie's efforts and her ability to join with others who shared her vision, the Historical Society found the building, and that building found its home here, overlooking Orange Lake near Sims Park. This beautiful shaded piece of land is called Enchantment Park, and one of its most enchanting citizens was Julie Obenreder. We are fortunate to have with us today individuals who knew Julie in different ways. Past presidents of the West Pasco Historical Society, David Prace, and Midge Prace, and Terry Klein. And Marilyn DeShant, former deputy mayor of Newport Richey, and a columnist a while ago for a local newspaper, and a businesswoman today. And Eugene Scott, who we hope will show up in just a few minutes. He's a former president of the African American Club of Pasco, which he founded. And he's also possibly one of the many individuals who entered this world delivered by the caring hands of nurse Julie Obenreder. And among us today is Julia and Connie. Before we begin, let's take a moment to silently remind ourselves of Julie Obenreder's lifetime contributions to this historical society, to this community, and to making this a better world. If any spirit truly lingers in this place of memories, it is Julie Obenreder's. Moment of silence.
Before I start, I want to tell you that the cards that some of you have, the Christmas tree cards, were generated by Anne Brandley, a long-time member now, made that format, and I reformatted it and printed them up many years ago, so we have a lot of fun with them. Anyhow, I'm just going to tell a brief story about Julie and someone else and their association, and it has to do with something that Julie started back in the middle 80s. She promoted an essay contest for all the students in Pasco County, and the winner of that contest was young Scott Black, who today is the mayor of Day City. And Scott Black tells us, when we had our 90th birthday party, you remember that? He came and he related the story himself, that he was so thrilled. The prize at that time was $30, and to a young teenager, that $30 seemed like $300. And so I just have that memory of Julie giving him that check back at the time. I wasn't there, but I can envision it, and I'm sure that everybody had a great time.
Julie, we used to see her in the hospital, and Julie was kind of like our queen. She had foresight, and as everybody knows, she was the leading person for what we have today. I remember, I think it was her 92nd birthday. We had a party for her.
I believe it was the 90th.
90th?
Yeah, it was the 90th. A big 90.
It was wonderful, and she
right
really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was right here, and I would always remember her. And occasionally when she was in the hospital,
yes,
we would go and see her. Yeah. She had spirit right up to the end. We loved her.
Hi everyone, my name is Marilyn DeShant, and prior to, or actually during the time that I was the name dropper for the West Pasco Press, I worked with the downtown program. And the reason I bring that up is because back in 86, 87, I think it was 85 actually, the city decided it wanted to try for the Main Street designation, the Florida designation for the Main Street program. And I was just a volunteer at the time. And one of the things we had to do was put together this really daunting application. And I'm thinking, here I am, not really from this area, but I have a tremendous love for the downtown, and I just really saw the future that could be. And so I said, well, how am I going to get all this background? And they said, well, there's only one person you need to talk to. Julie, of course. And so I remember getting on the phone and talking with her and sitting there and making all these notes. And I was so enamored and so excited about what I was learning. I would come here often, and there was like a reading area over here. I forget, it wasn't the library there, it was over here. And it was in the mid to late 80s, and I would just read and read and read. She wrote an autobiography, so I was learning all about what it was like to be here as a young woman, and then her early years as a nurse. And anyway, all I want to tell you is that I just had tremendous respect for her, and I just thought she was a real gem and a treasure to West Pasco. Thank you.
Hi, how you doing? Well, I was real lucky because I got to know Julie personally, and I got to know Roy, I got to know Wilford Neal, I got to know Norman Nelson, all our founding people, and I always referred to Julie as our founding mother. You know, it seems like when you remember people, people are like a coin, and you seem to just remember one side of that coin. Well, let me tell you a little bit about the other side. She was probably the most stubborn damn woman I ever met in my life, man or woman. You know? And our founding fathers, they were pretty radical people in their time too. I mean, they weren't the people that sat on the porch. They were the people out there that, you know, said, hey, this ain't right, we need to save this building. It was all about preserving the history. And they weren't set on people to do it, and Julie mainly, you know, she was the driving force behind it. To tell you a little story about Julie and the society and everything, when they moved the building here, and they brought it in, the building was, the men had all planned it out and everything, the front door was going to face towards the hacienda at the park. And so they brought it in, and they parked it over here, and they were figuring out how they were going to swing it and stuff, and Julie said, no, I'm not going to sit there and look out that door at that park. I want the lake. I want to look at the lake. And they were saying, no, 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 you know, and Julie said, no. Said, I'm the one that's going to be sitting right here, looking out that door, and I want to look at the lake. And the big to-do was they had to take down a little tree. And it was a small tree, but they had to take down a tree in order to make the swing to turn the building this way. Otherwise, the building had been sitting about halfway between here and Peace Hall facing the park. But the thing that aggravated me the most about Julie was she was always right. that was the thing that got me. And when I was president a couple of years, I called and kept in touch with her, and in her 90s, she was just as sharp as a tack, and she had an interest in this organization and stuff. And I know myself, with the people that are involved in this organization right now, that she would be thrilled to death about what's going on.
Thank you. Julia has consented to say a few words, and she's also agreed to baptize or christen the doorway by taking that green sheet down. Is there anybody else who would like to make a comment before Julia speaks about Julia?
I would like to make a comment. It's not because I knew her, which I didn't, but I'd just like to make a comment that without her and people like her, the museum wouldn't be what it is today. Mm-hmm. And we all thank you very much that you had such a precious mother and grandmother.
Thank you. Well, when Grandma passed away, I looked through numerous scrapbooks, notebooks, pictures, writings, and I was trying to find a few things that maybe never came out anywhere, but as far as I could tell, she got published a lot. Pictures, writings, documents. As far as I could tell, most all that was ever published. And then her What's Cooking article in the West Pasco Press. And then she did some radio talk
Scripting too, we found a script she.
Yes, she did. She wrote some scripts. She wrote a script for Tea Party and tried to reenact 1920s with the Sims and the Ladies Civic Organization. But I remember always living next to Grandma. And we lived in a house they first built when they came down here on Trouble Creek Road. And yes, I remember it being all dirt road and orange groves all over. And that house was eventually taken down a few years ago. But I couldn't drive by it ever. I still can't drive by it without thinking of us living there. And the garage that's next to it where Pasco Windows and Doors is, Grandpa owned that. And then my dad was in there too with a salvage yard in the back. And lived there for a long time. And then she was a nurse, as you know, and of course she gave me a few vaccines. And I'm like, oh no, Grandma, don't come at me with the needle. I never did like needles, but eventually I also followed in her footsteps and became a nurse too. So, and they did numerous things in the area. And they owned the lumber mill that was on Gulf Drive. They bought it from the Shaw Lumber Company. And Grandpa took down a lot of trees in the area. And I believe he traded some of that for some land on 19, kind of just south of Kmart there. I remember that I would walk down because then we moved too, since they moved to that side of the town, the 19, we moved over there too. And I remember walking down to the garage one day, and of course I didn't have to watch out for cars. And but Mother said, never cross the street alone and always hold hands. And I used to sit on the front porch counting the cars that would go by. Oh, here comes another one. So
that was the rush hour.
Yeah. And so one day I walked down to the garage down there, and I had something with me, and I had lost it, and I couldn't find it. So Grandma was there, and she said, let's just pray to St. Andrew. I think that's the saint that helps you find things. And so we said a little prayer, and then I looked some more, and there it was. I found it. So that was a good memory. And they also owned the property where the Hess gas station sits on 19 and Main Street. And he had a car lot there. And after a little while, the car lot moved down to where my dad had bought the body shop, which is, I think it's still a body shop right there, but was right next to what was Safety Auto Glass. And worked there for a while. And Grandpa moved his car lot down next to that. There was a little house that sat there. And that's where we lived, in a house that was right where like Safety Auto Glass in that area was. I lived there for a while. And where else? And then Grandma bought the house on Crest Drive, and she lived there. And then there was a year that they moved up to Crystal River. I don't know what they were thinking, but anyways, we didn't get to move up there with them. So she eventually came back because I don't think they liked it up there, being far from the family. And again, they moved on to Crest Drive. And basically that's it. And I just always had Grandma around. She was just a part of our family and our life. And, you know, Thanksgiving dinners and Christmases. And she had 3 children, but she ended up with, let's see, 16, or I think 20 grandchildren. And I don't even know how many greats, 50-some greats. And great-greats, I added them up one time, but I forget.
Too many. No, because my greats are so big, I can't count them.
And there was always, you know, my grandparents were always around when I was little. There was never less than 5 generations that I can remember. Even my great-grandmother, I got to meet her on my grandfather's side. But Grandma was full of ambition. And when I think about everything she's done, there's no way I could even match it. Even if I retired now and started doing things, I couldn't do what she had done. So she was a hard worker and always dedicated to what she did and finished to the end. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
Did she work without...
Do the honor.